Welcome to Beyond the Lab, a series by the Office of Career Development within the Biomedical Research, Education, and Training Department of the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. My name is Kate Stewart. I'm here today with Julio Ayala. And you have had a long tenure with Vanderbilt. And you were a grad student, a postdoc, research faculty.
Correct.
You went away, then you came back.
Correct.
And now you're here again.
Correct. I am.
So tell me about your time training here at Vanderbilt.
My time here at Vanderbilt, as you said, it was fairly extensive through almost 11 years as a graduate student, postdoctoral fellow in the same department, molecular physiology and biophysics, and then also as a research faculty. I look back on that time very fondly. I received excellent education, excellent training, and it really sort of boiled down to the quality of the mentors that I had, which really colored the good times that I had here, not only from a social perspective, but also obviously from a learning and career development perspective.
Sure. So tell me what happened after you left Vanderbilt as a research faculty.
Yeah. So at the time, I was sort of thinking about developing my own research program, and I had been working towards that goal as a research faculty at Vanderbilt. I obtained extramural funding from the American Diabetes Association, so that really propelled me to look and venture out and away from Vanderbilt. That's one of the sort of career development things that is advisable, is to actually, especially if you've been at a place for a long time like I had been, to really step away and try a new institution and try a different environment and sort of grow in a different environment to sort of develop your own niche. And so that's what I did. I went to a private research institute in Florida.
Okay. And you, from there, you stayed there for however long?
8 years.
8 years, and then you're back.
Yes, correct.
And how did that transition go?
Well, so that was unfortunately a forced transition. Okay. The private research institute that I had gone to was sort of for lack of a better term, a startup that ultimately just did not succeed. A couple of years ago, it started going through a process of slowly shutting down. So I was forced to look for other employment. And so I interviewed and was offered positions in different institutions. Ultimately, I chose to came back to Vanderbilt, not in a small degree because of the familiarity that I had with the institution and with Nashville, but also I just felt that of all the institutions that offered me positions, Vanderbilt really provided me with the best scientific environment to develop my research program.
Okay. So you came back to Vanderbilt, you had to start over again, start a new lab. What was that like, your first year back?
It was kind of it was a little odd, obviously, coming back to the same department, seeing a lot of the same people, but coming back in a different context. I was no longer a trainee, now I was running my own lab. So it was a little surreal, but I quickly got over that and really focused on the matter at hand, which was trying to get my research program and my lab up and running, getting the personnel that came with me from Florida settled in, and quickly start trying to recruit new people to get this lab up and running.
Okay, so this path in academia that you've taken, how is this a good fit for you personally, like with your skill set?
Yeah, I think it's a good fit because the one thing about academic research science is that it really allows you the room to explore questions that are important to you and not necessarily to somebody else, which can be in other scientific careers. So, ultimately, I like to answer questions. That's what really drives me. That's what really motivates me. And that's what this career, especially in academic research science, allows me to ask questions, and a lot of times the answers open up even more questions, and then just that allows your program to develop. So that's what suits me just fine.
What does a typical day look like for you? What are some of the activities that you do that fill your day?
I don't think there's such a thing as a typical day. Every day brings something different. Many times I have to deal with administrative things, answering emails, putting out small fires here and there. I like to be relatively hands-on with the people in the lab, sort of bouncing ideas off of them. I take a sort of very collegial approach, not so much a top-down approach in my lab, but sort of a a horizontal approach, bouncing ideas off of with the personnel in my lab. And then, that's the part that I enjoy. There's, like I said, administrative things that I have to do, reviewing grants, reviewing manuscripts, whether they're from my lab or from other labs. So every day is really something different. So there's nothing really typical about one day versus another.
So what are some of the things that you learned in your training at Vanderbilt that really helped prepare you for your current job?
I think one of the key things that I learned is that ultimately this is a job about personal interactions. Whether you're a trainee or a mentor, you're always going to be dealing with personal interactions, and that's how really the research progresses. So as I said before, I had a fantastic experience with great mentors at Vanderbilt, and that really taught me the value of those interpersonal interactions and developing those and having positive interactions with people in the lab, because you have to spend not 40 hours a week, but 50, 60, 70 sometimes hours a week in the lab with a lot of different personalities, and you have to enjoy what you're doing. And that really boils down to, in many aspects, to good personal interactions. So that's really something that I learned in my time here at Vanderbilt.
Okay, so what are the things that you had to learn after you left Vanderbilt? Things that you had to learn on the job?
On the job, that it's not just about science.
Okay.
It's not just about the nuts and bolts of doing experiments or planning experiments. It's especially when you get to the position of being a mentor, being a PI, it's really about dealing with personalities and also dealing with these little administrative issues like budgets and keeping track of money and this and that. As a trainee, you're almost hyper-focused on the science, and that's your only concern. But then once you move up to the point of being a mentor or a PI, there's all these other things that they don't tell you about, or you don't really receive training beforehand. It's really on-the-job training, personnel management, budget management, all those things.
Okay, so what are some things that you would encourage current trainees to do now to prepare for a field like that or a track like yours?
I think one of the key things is networking. That's a very important component. You have to get your name out there. You have to meet people, because there is value in others knowing you when it comes to either getting a job or applying for grants. There's something to be said about being reviewed by somebody who knows you personally, who can attach a face to the name, and really develop those interpersonal skills. Whether if you have an opportunity as a graduate student or a postdoctoral fellow to mentor another graduate student or an undergraduate student, that can go a long way in sort of developing those interpersonal and mentoring skills that will become valuable in the future.
Okay, so what are the ways that you network personally?
Going to meetings.
Okay.
If there's really opportunities, and that varies from one lab to another. Again, I was fortunate to have trained in labs that really provided me with that opportunity. Going to meetings, if you're fortunate enough to present, whether it's posters or talks, that's a great way. And if you see somebody at a meeting, even if they're a very well-established PI, do not be afraid to walk up to them and introduce yourself and start talking science. That's one way to do it. If a speaker comes to visit your institution, try to make an opportunity to go up and talk to them. That's really the way that you start sort of breaking down those barriers and begin to get your name recognized and be known.
Okay. Tell me a little about your work-life balance. What does that shake out to be with this job?
It varies from time to time. As I've become a little bit more established, I have tried to shift the balance a little bit more towards life than work. It's a little bit harder to do that when you're first getting started. But it's something that I strive for. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's beneficial to have an understanding spouse and family. But that tends to be probably one of the most difficult parts of this career, is really trying to achieve that work-life balance, and you just have to work at it, and hopefully you'll make it.
Okay, so tell me about the ways that you divide your time management. Seems like you have a lot of balls in the air.
Yep.
You're juggling a lot.
Yep.
What are some of the ways that you manage your time?
One of the things that I'm working on, and I really emphasize this because it's always a work in progress. Nobody has time management down. Maybe some people think that they do. So to me, it's still an evolving process where I try to make as much of my time in the office count so that I don't have to extend that time to, late in the evening or into the weekends. And that's where I'm trying to achieve better work-life balance. So I really try to limit distractions at work, which is really difficult nowadays with easy access to computers and cell phones and all that. But that's really the thing that I'm working on the most right now, is maximizing the efficiency that I put into the time in the office so that it opens up a little bit more time at home. It's still, this is not a 40-hour a week job. You still take work home with you in the evenings and on weekends, but at least it allows me, it makes me feel a little bit more relaxed about leaving work behind a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.